Hi guys, it's John back here with another inbox review. Today we're going to be looking at a model of the United States Navy's Grumman F-11F Mark I Tiger tactical strike fighter used by the US Navy in the 50s. The model is produced by Hasegawa, and we'll go straight into the boxing history. The model itself, let's just take that off because you're not interested in that. The model itself was originally released in 1981, and it was released in the US Navy livery in what we call the blue bar Hasegawa boxing, and this was covered also with the Hales logo on the bottom left hand side, and this was originally released in 1981. They also released in 81 the Blue Angels variant. It's the same model but with different transfers, different decals to give you the livery for the Blue Angels display team, again with the blue boxing and the Hales logo. 1981 release. That gave way to, let me have a look, that gave way to a 1982 release, which was the Minicraft Hasegawa boxing. Exactly the same kit inside, same, I think it's even the same transfers and decals for the same variants that are available in the other boxings. Yeah, the 82 release went through to 1980, sorry, the 82 release, which is here, went through to 1983. This is the subject of the boxing that I've got the model in, which is what we call the green bar Hasegawa boxing. This was 1983. And of course in 83 they released also the green bar boxing's version of the Blue Angels display team kit as well. The interesting thing about the plastic for the kits is that the Blue Angels model was actually moulded in blue plastic, and I think all of the other variants were moulded in grey, light grey plastic. 1983 went through to 1988 with a more modern style boxing. This time a change of image as well. Decals changed also. I've got a feeling this particular aircraft might be on board the USS Intrepid in Pier, I think it's Pier 54 in New York. This is one of the display aircraft on board her deck. So the other thing that's interesting about this particular boxing is that you have Hasegawa hobby kits here, and the model subject is given as an F-11F in 1/72nd scale, and in navy blue writing you've got Grumman F-11F Mark I Tiger, and in the 1992 release you've got exactly the same style of box, same image, Hasegawa hobby kits again, but the F-11F Mark I Tiger has been simplified to display the subject for the model, and it's been written in it looks like a sort of a tan yellow, which is the only difference I can see in the boxing. 1992 went to 2001 when Hasegawa Hobby Kits released the early livery variant decals option for the Blue Angels Tiger display aircraft. This is the only model you can get of the Blue Angels early variants. They had this livery before they changed to the more modern looking livery that I think is still current on their jet aircraft that they fly today. So you've got 2001, which gave way to 2000. Sorry, I need to go into a different boxing here. You've got 2002. This is the Iron Tigers VA156 variant, which was brought out in 2002. A much cleaner looking, less fussy overall livery for the kit there. So that also went through to 19. Sorry, I've got to get this as a right nightmare when you're trying to mix web images with photos. So 2003 was released in this nice red and grey colour scheme, nice bright garish livery for the Tiger there in US Navy markings. So 2003 went through to their final release, which was 2003 with the Blue Angels variant. This again was the later variant livery that they originally released in the early 80s. So that's the 2003 box, up to the 2003 boxing history. I now want to show you an image of that's a lovely image of a tiger there on deck. I'm going to bring the camera, just swing the camera around quickly for you, because I want to quickly go through this particular model review. It shouldn't take very long because the kit is actually quite basic. I'll swing the camera down here. Actually, I wonder if I can get some height on this a little bit, because it would be nice to be able to get some height on this for you. And then I could, no, that's a bit better, isn't it? There we go. Then I can get a bit more of the imaging for you. Right, the box itself, as I said, was the 1988. Sorry, the 1983 rendition. And this covered some adverts for some of their other models on the side, as you can see here. You've got the Blue Angels late variant image, which was released concurrently with this variant. You've got the Panther and the Cougar, and then an image of the F4J Phantom there. The interesting thing about the Tiger is that the Tiger was actually a development of the Grumman F9FE Mark 8 Cougar, which was a swept wing variant of the original Panther. Very little difference in the two aircraft, but the wings and the tail empennage was slightly redesigned, and the aircraft had more of a thimble nose to the Cougar. But the aircraft does sort of lend some of the Cougar's original lines on the image you can see there. But basically what they did was they fitted a more advanced powerful jet engine into the aircraft, and they gave the aircraft's airframe an area rule shape, that Coca-Cola image, which enabled the aircraft to break the sound barrier and become supersonic for the Navy. It was actually their first supersonic jet fighter. So we'll go through the parts in a minute. We'll do the boxing history as we normally do, starting with the instruction leaflet. The instruction leaflet is very typical 80s Hasegawa instructions. You've got an image there at the top of the aircraft made up. It does actually look quite clean and quite nice. It's a nice looking kit in that image, isn't it? And then you've got a painting and decal stenciling guides for the two different versions that come in the kit there. I'm not sure what aircraft carriers these are actually based on, but the AD variant here, which is pictured in this photograph, is actually covered for a 1958 variant Naval Air Station Oceana, based with VF-21's free Lancers. The other variant, I'm not sure whose variant this was and where it was based, I have no idea, but it does give you alternative markings for that. The kit itself builds up in 3 quite easy steps, as you can see. There are decals for the internal panels and the instrument panel there. Section 1, you have basically 3 sub-assemblies. The first sub-assembly is to build the cockpit interior with the seat and the instrument panel, and the second sub-assembly is to build the interior and fit it into the fuselage halves with the splitter plates there and the air intakes. Not sure what C4 is. It will probably become apparent during the build. Oh no, they're actually, I think they're actually, are they gun bullet releases or something? I'm not sure. Not 100% sure, but then you've got the arrestor gear and the jet pipe in the third sub-assembly, which makes up section 1. Section 2 is to assemble all of the airframe. So you can see there the wings, tail planes, drop tanks, missile fit there. You've got options there for the inboard pylons to be mounting either drop tanks or Sidewinder missiles, which is quite handy for me because I did an inbox review. The last inbox review I did was actually the Hasegawa Frog Bronco, which was missing some Sidewinder missiles, and lo and behold I've got 2 spare on this one if I fit the drop tanks, which is probably what I'm going to do. The cockpit canopy is fitted in section 2 as well, but as normal I'll probably have the aircraft painted before I do anything with the cockpit canopy. Section 3, undercarriage fit and undercarriage door fits there, and then you've got to fit the, I'll just bring this into the camera view, you've got to fit the arrestor hook gear assembly, and there's a couple of avionic aerials there few rams for the undercarriage oleo legs, and the wheels themselves. So the build itself is quite basic. Not a huge amount of work to do. I think this kit will probably go together quite quickly. We'll just take the parts out. I want to quickly go through what I normally go through first, and in the usual order I do things. We'll just take the parts out there. Sorry about this, lads. Right, here we go. That's that out, and we'll just start with the decals. Now then. The decals on this kit are typical quality for Hasegawa. Even in the 80s, their decals were actually very, very good. These particular decals have quite a nice hue to them. They're quite colourful, aren't they? The instrument panels aren't the usual instrument panel decals that you get in a lot of models. The side instrument panel, like the decking panels that go down the side of the cockpit seat, they seem to be quite dark with little red buttons, and the dashboard decal there seems quite nice. It's a nice look to the kit. I like the look of the decals on this kit. The backing film seems to be quite thin. It doesn't seem to be very apparent either. Even on some of the large decals, they don't seem to be an issue, and I think they'll probably go on quite nicely. The register on the transfers are quite nice. There doesn't appear to be any misalignments anywhere. And the stencils, if I can bring those up so that the camera can bring them into view there, I'm not sure. It's thinking about it, isn't it? I'm not so sure if you can read all of that writing there, but it is very small and fine, and they're quite nicely defined. I like what Hasegawa have done with the decals, so I'm quite pleased with those. They look quite good. Now then, transparencies. I don't know why it is, but a lot of people say in the model industry, a lot of people think that how a company produces transparencies denotes the quality of a kit. Now I'm looking at these transparencies, and there aren't any dials visible on that transparency part that makes up the instrument panel. But as I said before, there is a decal for it, so that isn't really a problem. And the canopy itself is really crisp and clear. The frame on the front there it's quite nicely moulded, and the cockpit is really crisp. I usually put a bit of polish over some of the decals over some of the canopies that I fit after I've painted them up, and I think that is going to look really nice. It has a reminiscence of a Sabre canopy, doesn't it? It looks very Sabre-ish in appearance. So the canopy, the transparency parts there are quite nice. Now then, as with the Bronco video, I don't want to go too much in depth in the main sprues, but I do want to show you a couple of parts on these sprues which are quite nice. You've got the main undercarriage oleos there. The main undercarriage wheel doors, and the inside edge of the wheel doors are quite nicely moulded. You can see that coming into view there. And the jet pipe, again, that's another nice touch. Nice looking pieces. I like the look of the quality of the mouldings. Hasegawa, they usually do crisp, nice mouldings, don't they? You've got a seat there for the cockpit, which is quite nicely rendered, and the floor pan for the cockpit. Not too much detail, but there are some pedals on it. You can see the pedals on it there. So that's not so bad. Back of the seat, main oleo wheels, legs there. The quality of the parts are quite crisp. The second sprue, you have a couple of Sidewinder missiles there. They're quite nicely moulded. There's a few rams and some pylons there for the missiles, and they're quite nice as well. This is the panel that goes into the back of the fuselage, which is nicely moulded as well. It's a nicely moulded kit. I like the look of the parts on this kit. Now then, panel lines. I I do want to talk a little bit about panel lines, and there's no real point in going into great detail about the panel lines on this model, because apart from the main flaps and their full length flaps on the wings, and the indentations, the recessed panel lines that make up what I can only describe as air brakes of some sort, or maybe they're I can't remember what they call them on the wings. They're lift dampers, aren't they? That's what they call them on airliners on wings. They seem to have the same sort of things, and there are slats at the front there, and they're all nicely recessed lines. But there's not an awful lot of other lines on the kit. The panel lines, there are a couple of raised panel lines at the front here on the underside of the wing, but it's not really that distinct. I don't really think you're going to have an issue with the lines on this kit. It's quite clean. There doesn't seem to be a huge number of recessed or raised panel lines, full stop. The interior of the fuselage halves there, I'll just quickly show you the interior of the fuselage halves there. They're quite naked, aren't they? There's not an awful lot of detail going on. Even inside the cockpit, there's not an awful lot. The wheel wells on this cut are quite basic. There's not a lot of detail. The nose wheel that there is built into the fuselage half, as you can see, not an awful lot going on. But I'm looking at the image of the Tiger that I've got in front of me on the computer, and I'll be honest with you, that photo looks like the kit is quite clean as well. There doesn't seem to be a huge number of lines visible on the real aeroplane, and Hasegawa have faithfully reproduced that fact with their kits. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of lines with it either. So the kit is quite clean, it's quite basic. The parts seem to be quite nice. I quite like the look of the parts. The kit, apparently, a lot of reviews done online, the Hasegawa kit is probably the kit that you're going to find the most readily available, and it's quite accurate, which is a good thing. Now then, quickly go through the information on this. It's not going to be a very long video, this one, probably about 20 minutes at the most. So, the model review is being done on the Hasegawa 1/72nd scale Grumman F11F Series 1 Tiger. The serial number on the kit is D017, or sometimes D17. The model dimensions are 7.5 inches long by 5.5 inches span, and it sits about 2.5 inches high on its undercarriage. The kit comprises of 47 parts on 4 grey plastic sprues and 3 parts on 1 transparency sprue, making 50 parts in total. Decals cover for 2 versions, both US Navy, and the optional kits and costs are as follows. In 1/72nd scale, you only really have the Hasegawa model and another company that produces an F11 Tiger is a company called Jin Yang. That might be pronounced in China as Jin Yung, because they pronounce Y-A-N-G as Y-U-N-G. Yung is pronounced Jin Yung. Take it from me, because I've got a Chinese wife, and she often tells me how things should be pronounced in Chinese. So the Hasegawa kit is quite readily available. It's easily available on eBay. There's usually 1 or 2 at any one time, sometimes a lot more. They go from as little as £3.75 up to about £11.50, and that's the usual going sale prices. Sometimes people want a bit more, maybe £20, £22, but they never sell for more than £11.50. The Jin Yang kit, I don't really know an awful lot about it. I have seen the box on the internet, and I would just go for the Hasegawa kit. It's perfectly good enough. Revell do a model of this in 1/55th scale. It's quite old, it's quite rare, and it's quite terrible. Because of its rarity, it goes for nothing less than £10 up to sometimes 45 quid. I've actually seen a couple sold on eBay in the last 3 months for 45 quid, believe it or not. And in 1/48 scale, there's a company called F&M Models. Again, I don't know an awful lot about it. The cost for this kit, I really don't know an awful lot about. But also you can get a 48 scale model from Lindbergh. But take my word for it, don't bother. It is really awful. Lindbergh do two versions of this kit in 48. They do the Blue Angels livery and the US Navy livery. The kit retails for between 5 and 8 quid, and when you think that's a 48 scale kit, the quality of the model probably isn't even worth £5. It's absolutely dreadful. So, conclusions. There aren't too many models of the Tiger available, but fortunately the Hasegawa one is quite a good option. It has no fit issues, but bear in mind it is a little basic. The detail on the kit would lend itself quite well to some aftermarket detail sets maybe, and if you're a dab hand with a scriber, you would probably do quite well to rescribe some of the lines. The model doesn't have an awful lot of panel lines recessed or raised in any way, shape or form, apart from the indentations that form the slats, the flaps and the elevators and rudder. The rest of the kit is quite clean, smooth, and there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of detail on the model whatsoever. So that's the inbox review for the Hasegawa Grumman Tiger. I've always liked the look of the Tiger. To me, it's an attractive looking aeroplane. It's typical 50s shape. And I think Hasegawa have caught the accuracy of the plane very well in their kit. So again, this is another model I'm looking forward to assembling and seeing how it fits and how it turns out. And the decals look good too, so yeah, it should be a winner. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos if you like what you see, and don't forget to give me a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you like what you see, subscribe. I'm very appreciative to new subscribers. Also, comments are very welcome, constructive if possible, and any questions I will try and get back to you as best I can. So that's the inbox review on the Hasegawa Grumman Tiger. I'll see you again for another video very soon. I've got some final review videos coming up for a few kits that I finished in the last week. And there's also a video that I'll be doing on the Spiffy Tiffy build, which is being run by the IBM in America. So Martin, please look out for that. And I really am glad that I was invited to be a part of this group build. Bit of a nightmare with one of the kits, but the other two were an absolute joy to put together, and I'll explain that in the final reveal. So I'll see you later, guys, and have a lot of fun modelling. See you soon. Bye bye.